Hello friends, welcome to our lecture series on CSR, and today we are going to talk about another very interesting dimension of CSR, and the topic of my today's discussion shall be Responsible Enterprise Restructuring and CSR. And this is going to be part 1 of this very lecture, wherein we'll talk about corporate restructuring or enterprise restructuring in terms of CSR, that what is the impact of, what is the possible impact of enterprise restructuring, or what you call as corporate restructuring with reference to CSR. Because most of us, we feel or believe that simply spending some amount of your part of your profit on listed activities, that is going to be regarded as CSR, wherein if we look at the global perspective of CSR, which talks about acting responsibly, you have to be responsible to all the stakeholders, and this is another very interesting and very pertinent dimension of CSR, wherein we talk about being responsible, staying responsible amid your enterprise restructuring. Even when I am going to plan for my corporate restructuring due to some of the important or significant reasons, and there too I'm supposed to be responsible. So with this agenda, we'll talk about what do we mean by, there are certain questions to answer. What do we mean by responsible enterprise restructuring, and then some pertinent questions. The age of paradox, what are those paradoxes with which we are working, or amid which we are working, and then eventually I'll tell you about the traits of a responsible company, that what are the possible traits of or the common traits of a responsible company when it comes to corporate restructuring, or what you call as enterprise restructuring as a whole. Why we are using this term enterprise restructuring? Because it is not only applicable for corporate entities, but even non-corporate entities. They are working for they are acting responsibly, so why not to include them also in this discussion of ours. So there are certain questions in front of us, that what can be the outline of a downsizing plan, and how it should look like for a large company. What might an outline of a downsizing plan? Suppose my company is going for a downsizing, and wherein we have to define an outline for that. So what should be the outline of that? And when we talk about downsizing, nowadays there is a very very in kind of term which is known as right sizing, that in place of using downsizing, we should use right sizing. What is the optimum size of your business enterprise, optimum size of your company in terms of your personnel, in terms of your employees. So what will be the outline of your downsizing plan when you are talking about a large company? And secondly, will there be any difference for this outline if we talk about a small company? So is there any difference for that from that perspective if I am looking for a small company? How does labor legislation or labor laws in different countries, they affect a multinational strategy for downsizing? In what manner this labor laws, or what we call as, in Indian context we talk about industrial democracy, wherein our workers, they have their own right to negotiate with their superiors, with their bosses. So what kind of or with their employers would be a suitable word. So how does these labor legislation in different countries affect a multinational strategy for a downsizing? And then again, another question is, if a company, suppose for some reason it is facing a decline, it is anticipating a decline in profit during forthcoming 2 to 3 years, so what human resource strategies might be appropriate? Initially it seems that it is a problem of HR, that is human resource management, and what we have to do into this, but indirectly it has some impact on CSR activities. Directly it is, of course, it is a question in front of HR managers to tackle with, to handle with. But when we talk about CSR, what about those employees who are working with our company for last 5-10 years, and since we are anticipating a decline in profit, and all of a sudden we are reporting them that your services are no more required, will it be a responsible act of our company? And another question along with these is that should we go for laying off workers immediately in anticipation of such kind of decline in sales, or we should wait for some time, or we should try some other way outs? What should be the ideal way? or we should stop hiring in hope that departures will offset the decline in orders. So there can be multiple way outs to this problem. Suppose I am anticipating decline in my sales and eventually the profit, and we are planning to go for downsizing. So should it be done instantly, immediately, or it should be done in a phased manner, or what are the ways to avoid such kind of downsizing? Or should we wait and hope that events such as departures and transfers to other divisions will buffer such a decline? That can also be a kind of amicable arrangement or amicable management. Should managers whose personnel would be affected by downsizing with layoff be informed well in advance? Should we serve them a notice, or will it suffice our basic role of acting responsibly? Is it sufficient that I am simply intimating you that in months to come, or in a month or so, your services will not be required, and by simply saying so, can I get rid of this responsibility, that I am acting responsibly and I have basically performed my duties? So these are some of the important and pertinent questions, which not only is the question in front of Indian corporate entities, but it is basically a perspective which is being faced or witnessed by the global corporate entities. So companies across the globe, enterprises across the globe, they are facing such kind of situation, and how to remain responsible amid this kind of problem, amid this kind of situation wherein it is really very difficult for you to retain those employees, and still you have a responsibility to act responsibly. So with this topic, I would like to first of all sensitize you all that CSR is not only about spending some amount of your profit on listed activities. It is much ahead of what we are simply thinking, or what is simply visible in front of us, that companies are spending some money on the health and education or listed activities, but that doesn't mean that they are acting responsibly. That can be one aspect of it, but there are multiple aspects to it, and acting responsibly amid corporate restructuring is another dimension of CSR, which we are going to discuss today. So what is responsible enterprise restructuring? That is a question in front of us. So enterprise restructuring or corporate restructuring, if we talk, it has been and of course it is going to be an important issue for not only the corporate entities, but also the government, the international institutions, business and labor forces. And when we talk about a good CSR or good corporate social responsibility, it basically implies that socially responsible restructuring should be done. When we are going for our enterprise restructuring, we should act responsibly, especially when we are talking about the change in employment during periods of recession and necessary attributes of today's world, which is basically a part and parcel of our corporate life, that at one point or the other we are going to face recession, we are going to face that decline in the sales, because that is part of trade cycle. Our trade cycle is supposed to witness that kind of decline. So the question here is, what is the better option, or what is a much better option to help people in jobs than when they are in their own, or we should wait for the entire problem to pop up, and then we should act responsibly, or we should try to manage that. So enterprise restructuring is basically it is something which is not done on voluntary basis. It is basically induced due to certain problems. You may face the decline in sales, and there are a number of other reasons which I am going to discuss in today's lecture of mine, wherein I will tell you that what can be the possible reason for this kind of restructuring. Why restructuring? What is the need of doing this kind of restructuring? And then the question comes, how to act responsibly amid this kind of restructuring. So restructuring is basically it is always there in the minds of millions of employees around the world, not only in public institutions but also the private entities. So if we, regardless of their format and type of business, the form and type of business or industry, it is basically there in existence. It is there in the back of the minds of all the employees, that what if the recession comes, what if the decline in sales is reported or witnessed, and what would be the reaction of the top management in front of retaining employees or simply declaring a downsizing, that there is a layoff and your services are no more required. So, my dear learners, there are basically number of ways which companies can, in which companies may restructure by taking into consideration or taking into their mind the interest of all the stakeholders, or to be very precise, partners in the enterprise, not only at the internal level but also at external level. So, this layoff is something which is inevitable. This downsizing is something which is inevitable. The decline in sales is inevitable. But how to act responsibly towards all stakeholders, keeping in mind the interest of all partners, not only at internal level but also the external level. So, if we look at the relevant literature on this subject, the existing literature on this topic, we find that socially responsible restructuring is not impossible. It is something which is very much possible, and it is not only possible, but you can also make it it also makes a good business sense. If you are simply acting responsibly towards your stakeholders are bound to think about your business enterprise, the goals and objectives of your company. So it is basically a kind of treatment. Pay, if you are paying them with this responsible coin, they will definitely pay you back by acting responsibly. Even your stakeholders will act responsibly, and they will also take care of your business interest, whatever it is. So, with this background, wherein we have certain questions that what is corporate restructuring, and when we go for corporate restructuring, there are different phases of it, and amid all those phases, how to act responsibly or act in a responsible manner, that is going to be our point of discussion today, and that also comes under the purview of CSR, that when I am taking care of all my stakeholders, that is also a kind of my corporate social responsibility. My social responsibility both at internal level as well as external level. Because when a person is hired in the business organization or in a business enterprise, you are not hiring, you are not taking care of that person only, but his entire family, friends and acquaintances, they are basically connected directly or indirectly with your business enterprise. So whatever money that person is earning out of your business activities or out of this employment, with that the entire family is basically living, and they are basically leading their life. So what is the age of paradox? What are the possible paradoxes? Although there are a number of paradoxes, but we would basically discuss about the most prominent one, the most significant one, which are time and again discussed by the experts of CSR. So business leaders throughout the world, they agree on at least one thing, that this new millennium, or the kind of environment we are witnessing, it is bound to bring new challenges. And if we talk about those challenges, some of them are the rapid change in technology, the relentless and continuous, what we call as that it is spontaneously changing technology. There is a rapid change, and it is happening because of globalization, and with this globalization, the intensity of competition is also getting more and more intense. Earlier we were talking about cutthroat competition, and of course it is there. And when we say cutthroat, it is basically indicating towards question on your survival as a business enterprise. So deregulation, explosion of new technologies, changing societal expectations and values, changing customers' expectations and whatnot. So the entire landscape, the entire scenario is changing, and it is creating an environment of permanent turbulence, what we call as a situation wherein there is a crisis which prevails permanently, and increased complexity in all sectors of the economy and in all the regions of the world, what we call as. So regardless of the region and religion, regardless of the kind of country you are, every country is bound to face this kind of turbulence due to this intense competition, increased complexity in all sectors, changing business format, and now people have accepted it, that it is part of the game. It is not at all surprising that a number of paradoxes are emerging as countries move from industrial economies to knowledge and information based economies. Now we no more talk about industrial economies, we are talking about the economies which are information based, knowledge based economies, information based economies, where the information or knowledge about a specific technology, a specific service will definitely pave the way of your business enterprise towards increased profits. So when the entire scenario is changing, why not the structure of corporate entity? It is bound to change. But amid this change, how to act responsibly, that is a very important question for business enterprises to answer. And with this, we will talk about those important paradoxes. Let us talk about the first paradox, which is known as paradox 1. It is basically talking about increasing evidence that those practices which provide more meaningful work and higher quality of life in workplace, they have a direct impact on profit. We all know that the higher quality of life or the quality of work life is going to have a direct impact on profits, because that is directly impacting the employees' satisfaction. It is through increased productivity. It is going to increase your productivity, what we call as the health factor or hygiene factor at workplace. If you are providing a congenial environment or atmosphere to all employees who are working in your business enterprise, of course it is going to increase their productivity, and they themselves will come up with greater innovation, and they will definitely reduce their the wastages. The employees shall emerge more skillful, and you will find committed people at all levels. So we all understand that there is a positive direct relationship between the quality of work life and employees' productivity and eventually the profitability. But still, some of the corporate entities, or you will find some of the business enterprises where the management practices do not reflect such findings. In fact, if you conduct a survey in those organizations, you will find the evidences indicating that some practices may be moving in exactly the opposite direction. So we all understand that it is having a positive impact. Still, why don't we move towards that? Why are we facing this kind of results? Why are we facing the anguish or the negative attitude and aptitude of employees? The reason is very simple. Because our management practice is not to take care of quality of work life. So this is the first paradox, wherein we all, despite knowing the fact that quality of work life is going to positively affect the productivity and eventually the profitability of business enterprise, still there are evidences indicating that some practices may be moving in exactly the opposite direction. The first paradox, which talks about knowingly or you can say simply saying no to what is the established fact, or simply not paying heed to what is a kind of established fact to increase your productivity and profitability. Moving on to the second paradox, we all have read that human and social capital is becoming all important when we talk about a knowledge economy or knowledge oriented economy, wherein the human capital or social capital is becoming all significant and important. And when we talk about the human capital, human resource, or what you call as human capital, it includes not only the physical appearance of an employee, but it includes intelligence, values, technical knowledge, networks of contacts, corporate memory, creativity, as well as professional skills and experience. So an employee is not coming as a person only, but you find at times that a person is basically representing intelligence, values, technical knowledge, creativity, his networks, corporate memory, and professional skill and experience is always there, of course. But despite knowing all this, that an employee is basically the human capital, all corporate codes of ethics or conduct state that people are our most important assets. We have found number of studies indicating or approving that people are human resources are the real capital of any business enterprise. Still, some of the studies indicate that management actions often destroy the human tissue of their own organizations when they go for downsizing, reducing their training budgets. Some of the organizations they have started thinking that why to spend on training. We should try to hire trained people. So reducing your training budgets, divesting whole communities within your group, it is of course another paradox which we are witnessing in most of the business enterprise, that without giving a second thought to this established fact that human capital is there with us, and if we take care of that human capital, of course we are going to not only survive, but we can increase our productivity and eventually the profitability. But still the paradox remains there with us. Moving on to the third paradox, which is basically a research based paradox. It says that researchers indicate that employee satisfaction contributes to customer satisfaction. Of course, when we are having satisfied employees, they will definitely that would be reflected into their the production process and the services they offer. So their motivation and loyalty, they are closely linked to customer loyalty, and the most profitable customers are the long term loyal ones. So we are basically creating the long term customers, but still many companies still treat their employees as cost. They count their heads as the cost centers, that this is a cost center where we are spending money. So the human side of downsizing is often carried out in a way which causes the morale, motivation, creativity, loyalty and productivity of employees to suffer. So the human side of downsizing is basically carried out in this way, that it is basically forcing employee to forcing all these attributes to suffer. So another paradox which is with us. The fourth one is which is witnessed in almost all large companies, where downsized, and many of them have downsized several times, that in the big size or large size companies you will find this trait to be very common, that downsizing is a frequent trend there. The bigger the company is, the greater are the chances of them witnessing downsizing or initiating the downsizing process. Still, fewer than 1 in 4 downsizings really achieved their objectives of reducing cost or increasing their productivity or improving quality and customer service. So the goal with which they went ahead for downsizing, they could not achieve that. They thought that by downsizing we will reduce our cost or will increase our productivity or improve the quality and customer service. But unfortunately, what happened, that they were back to square one. And there is a very popular quote of Peter F. Drucker on this, that in many, if not most cases, downsizing has turned out to be something that surgeons for centuries have warned against: amputation before diagnosis. So Peter Drucker wrote, and I am simply quoting that it is just like behaving like a surgeon who has initiated amputation before diagnosis. So the foot is amputated and diagnosis said something else. So without diagnosis, if you go for it, of course you are going to cause a loss to the company, and the result is what? It is nearly always a casualty. So this is what Peter F. Drucker said, and it is in most of the cases, or in some of the cases at least, I can be sure about that this paradox is into existence. The fifth one is it is just like the previous one, that many mergers and acquisitions fail to achieve their objectives. Nowadays in most of the university curriculum we have mergers and acquisitions as a subject. So mergers and acquisitions, they fail to achieve their objectives. Often the only beneficiaries are the shareholders of the company being acquired, who cash in on overinflated valuations, while the acquiring companies, they realize very limited added value. So these acquiring companies, they are not having any value addition. Still, number of mergers and acquisitions are increasing by leaps and bounds. And every year you find that number of mergers and acquisitions are increasing. The consolidation of companies goes on. So what is the reason of all this? The reason of all this is that most of the business enterprises feel that the business of business is to do business only. That my business, since I'm a businessman, my business is to do business only, nothing else. And the issue of corporate social responsibility or environment responsibility remains perplexing to many of the corporate entities, and they continue to be convinced that business of business is to increase profits. My business is to increase profit. Why to take care of? Why to consider the environmental responsibility as mine? Why to consider social responsibility as mine? I'm a businessman. I should take care of my profits only. But if we look at the global scenario, we notice that in high trust or consensual societies, such as if we take example of Germany and Japan, a much broader view is taken on this question. If we look at those countries, they take a very broader view to this question, and they are asking a question to this, that to whom is the corporate responsible and accountable, towards whom we are responsible. And if we talk about those countries, there employees and customers tend to be equal partners with the investors. So not only the investor, even employees and customers are equal partners. Additionally, if we look at environment, that is also considered to be an important partner or stakeholder in many companies in if we talk about Scandinavian region. And opinions may differ as to the definition, scope and emphasis of social and environmental responsibility. So opinions differ when we talk about defining this. But there are 6 primary stakeholders groups based on the researches which we could jot down, is that there are 6 primary stakeholder groups, and they are affected by business, and which in turn can influence the success of a business. If we talk about those stakeholders, they are shareholders, customers, employees, suppliers, local communities and environment. And with this, we can say that CSR can be defined as a process by which your enterprise manages its relationship also with not only with the customers, but also with the employees in a significant way, and it can increase their profitability. So to conclude with, I'll tell you about the traits of a responsible company. A responsible company is that company which rewards shareholders with a reasonable return over time. They are focused on customer. They consider employees as their most important asset. They ensure that their employability is retained. They provide meaningful work, fair wages and benefits, and they provide an enabling work environment to their employees. They contribute to the prosperity and social cohesion of communities in which they are basically operating or working. So basically these business enterprises, they practice eco efficiency and environmental sustainability, and this, I am not saying this is basically indicated by most of the researches in the field of CSR, and they indicate that the longevity of companies are basically dependent on their attitude towards acting responsibility. If they are positive about their acts, or they act responsibly, of course they are going to have a longer life than their counterparts which are not staying responsible, which are not socially and environmentally responsible. So with this, my dear learners, I tried to tell you about the responsible corporate restructuring in terms of CSR at global level. I hope you must have enjoyed today's lecture of mine. Thank you so much.